No, it's a joke. No, yes, it is. No, I've heard the good faith argument. I know you're both operating under good faith. I've heard it for 4 months now, man. But I'm telling you. No, okay, all right. Look, we're not caving here, okay? We're not caving. Swayman's about to see what Bussy and DiPietro are going to do tonight, and he is going to be freaking out. He's going to take whatever offer you put in front of him because he's going to learn real quick that we've got options, you know? I'm telling you, Big Sweens, you stay firm. No, you won't cry. You won't cry. You can do this. You can do this. No tears. You can lock in. It's a phone call, man. You're not even face to face. I wouldn't open with that. That sounds a little sexual. Hey, the game's about to start. I gotta go, but you've got this, okay? You just wait until the first period's done and you call him up, all right? Trust me. Uh-huh. Yeah, he said that? Yeah, he can have my car. I don't know what he's gonna do with it, but sure. No, he can't have my tickets to... Those are my honeymoon tickets, man. I don't care. He can afford to go to Italy on his own. He specifically wants my tickets to Italy. Okay. All right, sure. She's going to kill me, but sure, fine. No, my fiance's not going to still go. That's part of the... No, absolutely not. She's not going to go for that. Oh, she already said she was fine with it? Oh, she's actually more excited now because she's going with Swayman and not me? Oh, he specifically wanted to take my dignity with this deal on top of the... Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. I do the same thing, I guess. Thank you for that. Just get him to sign the damn thing. Okay. Low quality fans of a high quality Bruins team. That is not a dub. And I know that you, if you watch that game, likely have a couple concerns. Not because of the result. We're here for the income, not the outcome. Which I don't think that actually makes sense here. But we don't care about the final score of the game. We care about individual performances in the preseason, right? Don't actually give a crap about what our record is. We could go 0-7. Don't care. Individual performances. That's what we care about. And you could say some of the most important individuals as far as needing them to look good for a few reasons, they didn't look great. I would love to put a little asterisk here and be like, game 1 of the preseason, everyone's getting back up to speed. And, correct me if I'm wrong, this looked like 80 to 90% speed, not 50%. This didn't look like a traditional preseason game to me where everyone was kind of skating around. There was physicality, there was aggression, net front presences, board battles, fights. This was a hockey game. This wasn't one of those, we're just trying to stay healthy for the regular season. No, we're going to see that from a couple guys. We are. There's going to be some veterans who come in and they're like, we're just getting our legs back under us. And that's totally fine. You can't see it from guys who are trying to make the team or are trying to move up in the lineup or just earn more minutes. You know how that works. So this is not going to be a traditional game breakdown because it's preseason. And that feels a little silly to me. We're going to talk about specific players and specific moments they had because that's really what I want to focus on through the preseason. I don't know if I'm going to do a ton of like the all the way through the game kind of stuff. But the lines are important. We have Beecher, Kostelic, Duran running the first line. Now, they did try to keep the minutes as close together as possible, so there wasn't a huge advantage to be first line versus fourth line. Tuft, which I kept hearing him say Tufty. So I never thought the E was pronounced, but sure. Merkulov, Lettieri, Kepke, Farinacci, Lysell, Kantar, Nelson, Brown. I think he was pronouncing Lysell differently as well. Lysell or whatever it is. It's going to be whatever Judd Surratt decides it is. I'm sure he's closer to his players than we are. Also, he was great, and I know he's already done this on the radio and everything, but it felt, this is going to sound really weird, but it just felt like a warm hug. The way he went about the intro and getting into the game and how quick and precise and just beautiful. Great job by him, and I'm really excited to have him for the season. Anyway, that's just me gushing. Defensively, we have Lohrei, Peak, Wotherspoon, Osterley, Brunet, Sweezy. And then in net, we would have Bussy and then DiPietro for the second half. The eyes for this game, if you had been following along, should have been mostly on Lysell and Merkulov, Kantar and Duran, both guys trying to get into that fourth line, Bussy, and then DiPietro. Other than that, you could throw Farinacci in there. You could throw, obviously Beecher, but Beecher's competing for that fourth line, but he's definitely got a pretty hefty lead on basically anyone else, I think. You could talk about Patrick Brown, but we know what Patrick Brown is. You could talk about Lohrei or Peak or Wotherspoon, but again, we know where they're slotted in. Defensively, Brunet, it's fun to watch. Sweezy's fun to watch. Osterley, these are all guys that are either going to spend some time in the AHL or 7th D guys. Like, there's not a lot of reason to really get nitpicky with them, although Lohrei is actually where I'm going to start. Lohrei looked fantastic. He looked like he was ready for the season to start. And there was one play in particular that was in the second period that I thought really highlighted some growth in his game. Now, he looks faster. Again, we're probably not full 100% speed, so there's probably some miscalculations there on my part. But he does look faster. He looks like he's understanding the space a little better, which he was already great at. His hands are still there. His blue line play. Last year, we talked a lot about Lohrei on the blue line in taking risks unnecessarily. Ones that were stupid. I don't mean like the confidence to beat a guy. I mean the confidence to beat 3 guys, and then it gets turned over, and then it's a 3-on-1 the other way. That kind of stupid. There was a play where he's on the blue line. He comes in a couple of feet, and he tries to dangle the guy in front of him. He loses the puck. But the second he doesn't have control of it, he gets low and blocks any attempt to spring this puck out. He's ready for it. And I think someone's been in his ear, or he's just simply watching tape and going, I can't do that. I have to be ready for that to fail and have a quick reaction to prevent a break the other way. I do not want to take Lohrei's confidence away from him to go after these one-on-ones and create a mismatch by going by your defender, and all of a sudden it's a 5-on-4 for a second. That's huge, especially at the NHL level. I just want him to be smart about it, and I think he was, and I really thought he had a tremendous game. Fantastic. I thought Peak was really great. I thought Wotherspoon was all over the place. He was really solid. Defensively, that's really all I'm going to say about that. Those guys looked good, and they looked close to ready. I'm not worried about any of them. I'm also not worried about Beecher, Beecher was one of the few guys that I feel like was playing at half speed. Is that fair for Beecher to do? Is he locked into that level? No, but I know how fast Beecher is, and he flashed it a couple of times. He just kind of skated around, though. He wasn't pushing pace all the time. He had a couple of forechecking moments, but again, I don't think he's that concerned, especially this early in the preseason. The next person I want to talk about is Trevor Kantar, because saw a lot of this on Twitter. He scored a goal. He had some forechecking moments, was very physical. People are quickly grabbing onto him, and we've talked about him being a fan favorite, things like that. But if you've watched this channel for a long time or listened to Short Shift, you know that I am very much not on the Trevor Kantar hype train. I don't think he does anything better than the other people at his position fighting for those roles. Like, he is a grinder, and he's a good one. And he will see games with the Boston Bruins this year. But he's that guy who gets on the fourth line, and you're happy with his service, everything like that. There's just not a lot of upside there. Like, Riley Duran, I feel, is a game-changing presence when he hits his prime in the NHL. Not in the superstar kind of way, But as a fourth line guy that you can so tremendously rely on for penalty killing, for just plain going up against other teams' top lines, the aggression, the intelligence, the foot speed, all of that. That's the kind of guy he is. Now, he, unfortunately, has waivers working against him this year because he can go through waivers without getting pulled to another team. So the odds of him playing in Boston this year aren't super great. I mean, there would have to be some injuries that he can go up and down, but that also means that he can go down. And there's a lot of guys that can't go down without being, put on waivers for other teams to grab. So Duran actually has that working against him. I think it is going to be the nail in the coffin for him. But he's been tremendous. I thought he had a tremendous game. We could kind of talk about him if you want, but right now, if you want, you're in the room with me. No, it doesn't. He was just fantastic. There's not a lot to break down about his game. His forecheck was excellent. He was in everyone's face. He shot the puck every chance he had an open lane to the net, which, if this was a top 6 guy, I'd be like, can we make a play here? You're in the bottom 6. Get to the puck to the net and crash the fucking net. That's what he does. I'm not saying Kantar doesn't do that. He crashes the net. He lays a physical forecheck. I just don't think he's as quick. I don't think his offensive IQ or just hockey IQ is nearly at the same level as the people who can be competing with, which is Beecher, which is Max Jones, which is Costello, who we'll talk about shortly, Brazeau. These guys that he's going to be competing with, I don't see his upside being better than theirs. People were all over him this game. Even the goal he scored it bounced off Nelson's skate and he just swiped it with his backhand. That was a desperation play, but people acting like he sniped 5-hole. No, it trickled through the 5-hole of Gandar. We'll get to him. Their goalie at the time. It's just, I don't see it with him. I genuinely don't. And I'm fine with people getting excited about it and disagreeing with me on that one. I'll be on an island. I have no problem being on an island. I don't see him being at the same level as some of these other guys, some of these other competitors. So that's my whole Kantar rant that I really wanted to get off my chest. I mentioned Kostelic, and I think he's important to talk about because he came across in the Ullmark trade, and people refer to him as kind of a throw-in, but through the summer, there's more conversation about him, the camps, the practices, and people just talked about how aggressive he was and how he's the prototypical fourth-line guy who's going to lay that forecheck and create chances for his line mates just through pure physical domination and all this stuff. He took 2 terrible tripping calls, blatantly bad. He was consistently caught behind the play because he was too busy being physical rather than playing hockey. And just in general, that was a bad game. You heard his name a ton, but every time you heard it, something pretty tough followed right after. Now, look, his forecheck mixed in with a couple other guys in this game, really strong. So I don't want to be all negative about him. But I just expected a more well-rounded fourth line kind of guy, and this felt like a wild animal. Just out there slashing and tripping and just so aggressive, but which we love, but make a hockey play once in a while, man. You can't just be running around with a chicken with his head cut off. So I genuinely wasn't very impressed with Kostelic. I thought that his game was not focused enough in general. I do want to do quick little shout-outs to Patrick Brown, who played a really solid game, but I know what Patrick Brown is at the NHL level, and I'm not interested in reliving that. Farinacci, who was very quiet but very consistent. He's not doing enough to separate himself. It's just game 1, but he's going to need to hit another level to really stand apart. He's competing with too many guys. I thought Osterley was solid. I thought Vinny Lettieri was really, really good. So, he's going to be in contention for those fourth line minutes as well. It was Farinacci, Lettieri, Nelson. Nelson was the other guy I wanted to mention. Had a really good game. Not quick enough. Not always in the best positioning. But when it came down to defending, and then once they were established in the offensive zone, net front presence. He was really solid in those roles. His forecheck, when he could catch up to the guy, pretty devastating. Not a guy I would like to be in a corner with. A lot to like there. I think his foot speed, his skating is going to completely hold him back. I just don't see how that translates to a full speed NHL game. but I did want to give him a little shout out. Let's talk about the goalies for a second, and then we're going to loop back to a couple names that I know that you want to talk about. Bussy, 2 goals allowed on 12 shots, and then DiPietro, 1 goal allowed on 10. Did either of them have a great game? Because the box score doesn't tell you the story. Unfortunately, Bussy absolutely did not. The rebound control was a mess. He had excessive movement on almost every single play that I can think of. He got beat cleanly twice. You can make the argument the first goal was through a crowd. Felt like he had enough time to locate that puck and it beat him high shoulder. It was a great shot. The second shot was a phenomenal shot by Hedl. He was coming through that right circle and just nailed far post. But the fact of the matter is you got beat clean. It's unfair to expect a goalie to always be able to save every shot. This was not a good showing for Bussy. If you want to eliminate those goals that, again, were very solid shots, it's just the movement. The movement is huge. It's massive. I don't remember him being like this last year either. I'm pretty surprised by it. But it was a lot of just space going back and forth. And again, the rebound control was just a mess. It was a mess. And then DiPietro comes in halfway through the game, makes 2 awesome saves. Huge saves, but also let in the worst goal of the night and the game-winning goal. That goal was Belzile coming down the right side and just throwing it on net, and Feifel squeaks right through the pads and in. That was a muffin. That was a bad goal to allow. So, although DiPietro had a better showing and a stronger presence, I thought, that goal was horrid. Korpisalo is sitting there going, okay, all right, that's my competition. I can beat that. Swayman's going, pay me everything. What are you doing right now? It's the first game of the preseason in front of a live crowd. I'm going to give him some time, obviously. This does not decide anything. Bussy had a shutout last preseason. I'm not really concerned to go either end on that. It was just a really tough start for the goaltenders. Not ones that they wanted. Not the starts they wanted. The 2 guys that we really want to talk about. Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov. Let's start with Merk. Merk got better and better throughout the game. I thought his first period was really lackluster, where he kept getting in the right position, but just couldn't seem to settle anything. Kept bouncing on him. He kept just a little jittery, not able to really see what he wanted to see. He was landing some passes where you wanted once in a while, but for the most part, it just felt like he was too frantic. And then through the second period, settled. And all of a sudden, he's finding his teammates in strong areas. He's helping keep possession, even though his smaller stature doesn't allow him to be as physical on the boards. He is winning a couple battles, mostly open ice battles. Positives. He didn't end up registering a shot on goal, which is surprising for him. But also, I thought through the second 40 minutes, or the last 40 minutes, he was just a quietly strong player who was creating chances for his line mates. That's not going to be good enough for him. If he's going to make this team, he needs to stand out. He needs a much better presence. And we'll see if he's able to do that. Just because the competition, there's too much competition for those bottom 6 roles. He has to show that he truly deserves to displace somebody who's going to be, frankly, more consistent as a hockey player than he is, because there's just more experience there. He has to displace somebody. Needs a better night. Not a terrible start. It's just not the strongest start. Fabian Lysell, you could categorize this one as a terrible start. And I know a lot of people are so far out on Lysell. And I get it, because a first rounder, you put a lot of hope on him. It's not working out as quickly as you would have liked. He's 21, 22 years old, something along those lines. The problem I have with this, and what surprised me, because he was so much more assertive second half of the year in Providence, it really surprised me how invisible he was for large portions of this game. Wasn't engaging in battles in the corners or on the wall. Multiple times you could hear in Judd Surratt's voice the disappointment when he goes, Lysell sets up outside of the scrum. Not a lot of physicality. We know he's not an overly physical guy. Well, what about the other aspects of his game? His skating is still brilliant, by the way. His skating is still brilliant. He did not win a single one-on-one trying to beat anybody. He lost the puck every single time. He had 2 zone entrances that I thought were pretty good, but, just kind of snaking through the grouping. But every time somebody stood in front of him, he lost the puck. Vision wasn't there. He wasn't finding his teammates the way I expected him to. What else was it? Oh, any contact that he took basically knocked him off the puck. Any contact at all. It was just rough. It was genuinely just rough. He was neutralized all night. And for a huge portion of it, he didn't need to be. He was just doing laps. And there were times, in particular, he would lose the puck. And a guy like Duran, I'm going to keep going back to Duran, because if you gave Duran's motor to Lysell, that guy might be Pavel Bure. Like, that's a whole different human being at that point. But a guy like Duran loses the puck and turns and does something about it. It might not always be the best decision, but he does something about it. Whether that's trying to go for the stick, trying to go for the puck, a little slash in the legs, something comes from that turnover. There's a lot of guys that were out on the ice where if they lost the puck, well, they did something about it. Lysell didn't. Every time he lost the puck, that was it. That was the end of the play. His turnaround would be wide, and that wasn't always based on speed. You could be like, well, what if he was going really quick? Yeah, that's fair. There were times when he was going a normal speed, and whoop. He has no way he can be confident that he is locked in an NHL spot. He needs way better performances through this preseason camp. And frankly, it really worries me that he has this opportunity and for the second year in a row looks this disinterested. It's not a good start. Not a good start at all for Lysell. I'm not out on anybody. Nothing's decided. This is just how we began. First impressions are a lasting one. But this is just how we begin. And we don't know what the notes were. We don't know what the instructions were going onto the ice. We don't know what was in their heads. I'm very willing to give it some time here. Pretty disappointed in a few guys, particularly goaltending and Lysell and Kostelic. But Lori looks awesome. Duran looks great. Merkulov was looking better and better throughout. Again, he's going to need better performances than this, but still strong. Peak looked really good. Wotherspoon was super involved. There's a lot to like about it. There was just a few pieces that you really wanted to see something more. It just wasn't there. Just wasn't there. And also, Kantar scoring a goal doesn't make him a great player. Like, he did do a great job of getting physical and getting in front there, but drives me nuts. All right, guys, that does it for me. Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. We are going to be talking Tuesday because we have another game. On Wednesday night, we, as in the Short Shift Pod, are recording the season preview. Should be massive. And on Monday night, I'm recording with a couple friends about some fantasy hockey stuff. So, if you're looking for advice from a guy who has never won his own league, check it out. All right. Go Bees! That didn't feel right. Go Bees!